So I am currently a MFA candidate at Goddard College and working in the area of fiction. This short story I'm going to read you, and it's only 11 and a half minutes, so I'm going to save you some time, is loosely, very loosely based upon being raised in a very large Irish Catholic family. However, when I read this to a friend of mine recently, she said, well, if you're Jewish, it will apply to. However, please remember that these characters are totally fictitious, because otherwise I will be in big trouble. Okay, the name of it is Three of Each. There were three of each. First a boy, then a girl, another boy, another girl, another boy, supposed to be the last, but a menopause baby, a girl, trailed as the caboose. All six of them, including their spouses, were seated at the dining room table for Christmas dinner at Ma and Dad's house. The grandchildren, all 11, except the youngest in a high chair, were happily relegated to the folding tables in the living room. Ma laughed. I was quite clever about how I arranged all of you. Might not have been an even number, except for those two miscarriages. Could have gotten all screwed up. She beamed at her grown brood. The large platter of turkey, ready to be carved, sat in the middle of the table. A Norman Rockwell moment, complete with ruffled paper napkins cut in the shape of fowl, courtesy of the oldest granddaughter, who is destined to become an elementary teacher. The firstborn son, who was an engineer, cleared his throat and said grace. The three brothers sat next to each other on one side of the 8-foot table. They arranged it so their wives flanked them on either side. With their male heads bent in a similar angle, they relished the same joke. The sisters sat opposite, but never heard the punchline. The middle son was a welder, but was better known for his climbing abilities on all types of terrain, both summer and winter. The youngest male was a pilot, but the best golfer of the three. As they grew up, the boys spoke in a language only they seemed to understand. It works this way, said the engineer. I'm a civil engineer, not an electrical, industrial, or mechanical one. Let's climb it, said the hiker. It can't be any steeper than Mount Washington or the Moats. Let's think about it while we play 9 holes, said the golfer, as he arched his back for a hole-in-one swing. They had secrets, even from Ma and Dad, often disappeared for hours, and were miles away from setting the table, washing the dishes, or cleaning their rooms. Ma fostered segregation from the start. The boys liked to do this. The girls liked to do that. They had a different set of rules. Boys take out the garbage, mow the lawn, and shovel the driveway. Boys can sleep with their girlfriends before marriage as long as they don't talk about it. Girls always have more than a trio of chores to finish. They don't get a wink and a knowing look when their wandering hands land between their legs. They're never allowed to have a boyfriend stay the night, even if he sleeps in the basement. Dad didn't say much. He wore his threadbare L.L. Bean plaid flannel shirts to church and at Sunday dinner. What little flicker of interest crossed his obscure face occurred in response to the boys' stories about solving construction problems, the variable incline rate of Mount Chocorua, or which iron or putter to use. The boys favored him in looks and taciturn personality, flat, dark, brown hair, which thinned, receded, and eventually disappeared, except for the sides, by the time they were 40. Not especially tall, but not short either, medium height, but always a paunch, which developed more or less into middle age, depending upon each's status at the gym and which testosterone-driven contest they were currently gearing up for. Their first expedition happened when the engineer was approaching 50. The hiker was in his middle 40s, and the golfer a year away from celebrating his big 4-0. It was a hike up Mount St. Helens, a few years after she blew, a trip which took a year of planning and 6 months worth of training. During the girls' hour-long weekly phone calls, Ma filled them in. Your brother has lost 20 pounds. He's out running again. I don't know if he should do that. You know, it's bad for your knees, and he isn't getting any younger. Your other brother will probably outshine them all. He's hiked the 4,000 footers in New England, but I worry about his breathing. He had that pneumonia a few months ago. I hope my baby boy dresses warm enough. He's had frostbite before. The three of them in a picture at the peak holds a revered and much dusted spot on the mantle. Bundled in REI backcountry jackets, hoods, snow pants, gaiters, and Gore-Tex boots, their ice packs jauntily staked in the snow beside them, they look like they're ready for the Arctic. At Christmas the following year, everyone had to sit through an hour PowerPoint presentation of the trip. The girls sat in stony silence and watched them clink beers at base camp, and later trudge hand over hand in goose-down mittens with ropes at their waists, hooked from a carabiner. Hey, bro, the climber said, remember the time you fell in Moosehead Lake when we went fishing? More like somebody pushed me in. But I caught the biggest fish, a 12-pound rainbow trout. The youngest, who had the most hair and the smallest paunch, said, yeah, but who snored the loudest in the tent? The girls shook their heads and bit their lips. Their conversations were, as usual, only directed toward each other. When the girls told a story about a whopper of a sale at one of Bargain Basement stores, or handed out index cards with recipes for chicken cordon bleu, or shared how they helped their 5th grader with his science fair project, the boys got up and left the room. Ma and Dad gave them a look, which said, hardly compares to Mount St. Helens. When the girls visited and only one of the brothers was there, they were silent. They zoned in front of the TV or had Ma rustle up some chores. Luckily for them, the family homestead was situated across from a golf course. Many hours were spent searching for stray balls. After Dad died suddenly in 2002, Ma was the only one kept informed of the boys' events and vacations. The latest, this past February, a cruise to the Caribbean. The golfer and his wife, the climber and his 16th girlfriend since his divorce, met the engineer in Miami a day before the ship launched, played 19 holes of golf, and had time to take paragliding lessons. The boys were surprised when Ma's health took a fatal turn. Their brief phone calls and visits over the years hadn't prepared them for complications. The girls knew the endless details of every ailment long before it became life-threatening. While she was still lucid, Ma made the girls promise to watch over the boys. They'll need taken care of when they get older. Birthday cards, Christmas presents. Now don't forget, it's up to the 3 of you. Remind them to eat right, have their annual checkups, and stay out of the rain. The girls took notes and promptly threw them away in the gray nursing home garbage can in the lobby. A few years after Ma died, the boys stopped talking to the girls entirely. The girls decided to take action. They texted, emailed, and had a Skype conference call. It's time we taught them a lesson, the firstborn, a nurse, said, her once thick auburn hair reduced to thin strands covering her scalp. Yeah, you're right, the median squeeze between the 2 brothers agreed. The voluminous freckles, which had once distinguished her, were now mistaken for liver spots. She was a teacher and identified with her sister's reasoning. The neonate, a secretary, equivocated. Well, maybe we should give them a chance, she said. This said because she had the most hope for a future, and her children still weren't out of college. It's time for them to have another adventure, declared the most mature, one they'll never forget. Okay, we're in, chimed the other 2. It took some time to perfect the plan, and they did it in ways that couldn't be traced. The aged one invited everyone to her house for Christmas the coming year. The boys protested individually and collectively. We're going scuba diving in Cozumel. But a twist of guilt and a hammer of blame made them acquiesce. One of the girls, an expert horticulturist, mixed a lethal compound. Another one poured the alcohol as chaser. The last one distracted them at the piano, even though they flinched at her singing voice and itched to retrieve the remote. Happy holidays, the sisters cheered as the tray was placed on the coffee table. But because the oldest forgot the order, her memory had faded considerably, the drinks were consumed in reverse. A girl, a boy, a girl, a boy, a girl, a boy. It wasn't long before the potion took effect. The girls gagged and retched, each spasm made them weaker. Sounds of plates slipping from their hands before they reached the dishwasher, and leftovers splattered on the kitchen floor caused the spouses to investigate. The boys took their cigars into the living room and turned on the football game and congratulated themselves on choosing an airline that refunded their tickets.